have Abraham. We have this vision Abraham has. Abram, he's not changed his name yet to Abraham. We have this vision that he has that says, you know, you're gonna do this. This isn't his first. This is not Abram's first vision, by the way. He was up in Ur. He was way up in, you know, the Mesopotamian valley up there in the Tigris and Euphrates and stuff. And he got a vision up there back in chapter 12. And God says, I'm going to make a great nation out of you. Now get your stuff together and let's go. We're going to go do it. And I'm going to give you some land. I'm going to show you the land that I want you to inhabit. I'm going to take you there. I want you to do it. And so in chapter 12, Abraham packs up all his stuff and his wife Sarah, and off they go. And they go down into Canaan. And there is a drought or a famine or something going on in Canaan. So he goes on down into Egypt. And he has a little tete-a-tete there with the Pharaoh, and they have a problem with the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh gives him a whole bunch of stuff. So Abraham now is pretty wealthy. And he goes back up into Canaan. But before this vision we have today, while he's up in Canaan, there's a war breaks out with some bunch of kings in Abraham. And he fights them all, beats them all. King of Sodom, Gomorrah, a bunch of other kings, he beats them. And then he goes and he and Lot, he looks over the land, and him and Lot divvy things up, and Lot takes this section, Abraham's going to take that section, and he does that. And then he goes to Melchizedek, you know, he's like this king of righteousness, real enigmatic character from the Old Testament and New. And he gives Melchizedek a tenth of all his stuff. And now he's hanging out in Canaan again. And he's hanging out, and he has this vision here. And in this vision, he's told, you know, that he's going to get this reward. Well, he's already got land, and he's got all this wealth, he's got these camels, and these donkeys, and these other things, you know, all these sheep and stuff, and he's got this big crowd of people all around. He had a war he fought with a bunch of kings, he beat them, and he's got the favor of God on his side. And so Abraham, you know, he's been blessed beyond belief, and he gets mad at God, in effect. He says, hey, wait, you told me I was going to have a son, I ain't had a son yet. You told me I was going to have Eleazar going to be mine. I mean, what's with this, God? You promised me I was going to have a great nation. And God said, well, wait a minute, Abraham, let's go outside. Go out there and look at those stars. You're going to have more than that. It's going to be more than that. And then it says Abraham believed. And he was thought to be righteous. So he believed that. Now, God's been talking to Abraham several times. And you know, he asks about look at the stars before he can believe. But he goes out and looks at the stars. And I have to say, you know, I have always heard stories about this, and Abraham is this great man of faith. And we talk about the faith of Abraham. And Paul, in Romans, I think it's Romans, talks about the faith of Abraham. You know, and we go on and on about the faith of Abraham, but I just don't see it here. I mean, I got to be perfectly frank. Abraham says, sure, okay, I got it, you know, I believe now. And then the next chapter, the very next chapter, he takes Hagar, a slave, and impregnates her so that he can have Ishmael, because he's just not sure God's going to carry out his promise. He's just not so sure about it, but he's going to help him along. And then, you know, and he goes, I mean, Isaac's not born until chapter 21. We go through this again with Abraham. Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed, all kinds of stuff. It's been years, clearly years, since God made the promise back in chapter 12, I'm going to go ahead and give you a son. You know, it's been years, but God keeps saying it, and then it says Abraham believed, but Abraham's going to take it on himself to make sure this happened with Ishmael. And Abraham, you know, he says he believes, but then he always questions. But you haven't given me a son. You haven't given me a son. Abraham wants instant gratification. I mean, he just has no patience. He wants instant gratification. I've got to say, seems to me, we should be able to relate to that. I mean, if 4G wasn't good enough, we got to have 5G because the internet's got to be fast. You know, I mean, we got to have instant gratification. We can't, one TV channel's not enough. We need 150 or however many we got now. You know, we need instant gratification. We want it now. Everything. We want it now. Whatever it is. We want it now. As a matter of fact, wasn't there an ad campaign a little while ago with a song, I want it now? It seems to me I can remember that. You know, we need it instantly. What's with this story of God waiting all this time with Abraham? He was up in Ur and called Neil. Why didn't he just pop out a baby right then? Back when he was only 75 or 50 or whatever it was. Why do you got to wait till he's 100? What's with that? You know, God, you got to wait all these years, these decades. Abraham and his entourage wandering around in the Middle East, thousands of miles under their belts, you know, they're trudging along, and Abraham the whole time, I need a kid, I need a kid, I need a kid. What's with that? Why is it that God doesn't do it now? Because that's what we want. That's what Abraham wanted. Why does God take God's time? What's with that? You know, we should have it now. We need a vaccine now. We need to get away from wearing masks now. We need to get back to normal now, whatever normal was. And when we're back to normal, we don't like it anyway. I mean, we all complained about it back when we were normal, didn't we? Back when things were good. We didn't like it then. You know, we want it now. And whatever it is, it's not right. You know, God, you're just not right. And it's just not us. This is John the Baptist. This is a story from Luke. It's John the Baptist talking. He's talking to all the people who've come out to be baptized. And the phrase they left out, the sentence that was right before this, you brood of vipers. You brood of vipers, he calls them. And he tells them, you know, what's with you? You know, what's with you? You need it now. I mean, repent, turn around and go another way. Do things differently. God will take care of it. God is here for you. But you know, maybe you can be there for God as well and worry about the relationships you have with one another. Maybe you can be there for God as well and worry about the relationship you have with God. When he says repent and go another way, when he says to bear fruit, he's talking about the fruit of love and the fruit of kindness and the fruit of caring for one another. He's talking about the fruit of worshiping God and caring about God and what God desires for them. And what God desires for the Israelites. And I think John the Baptist is talking to us. And when God says to Abraham, you know, this is going to happen, he's talking to us. He's saying, yes, it's going to happen, but it's going to happen in God's time, not ours. It's about patience and caring and working to build relationships is all that the Gospels are about. About caring for one another. And about being there for one another. And not wanting it all now. You know? Do we want God's kingdom now? I think we do. But it's God's decision, not ours. And we can help bring it along by doing what God asks of us right now. And what God asks of us now is to enter into a relationship. To be in love with one another. To care for one another. To show one another what God's love is really about. You know, the story of Abraham, I always struggle with this great man of faith that he's supposed to be. I guess he is, and he packed up his stuff and left from Ur, and he traveled around thousands of miles while he waited to have his kid. But he's always trying to outthink God. Always trying to get a little bit ahead. Always trying to make things a little better. God says, well, Abraham, maybe. It'll happen, but it'll be in God's time. God's kingdom will come. It'll be in God's time. And in the meantime, we can help him by entering a relationship. The story of Abraham, if it is anything, I think it's a story about a relationship. About Abraham and Sarah, about Abraham and Isaac, about Abraham and Ishmael, about Abraham and Hagar, about Abraham and Melchizedek, about Abraham and God. It's a story about the relationship that, in spite of it, Abraham tried to break it, but God won't let it break. God will not let our relationship with God break. He is always in love with God's creation. God is always in love with those who have been created in his image. Enter into relationship, he tells us. Be with one another. Be there for them. And in God's time,